Robert Redford's legacy. The hidden gems you've probably never watched. The recent news of Robert Redford's passing has sparked a wave of nostalgia, prompting many to revisit his most iconic films and celebrate the remarkable career of one of cinema's true legends. It's no surprise, Redford's body of work is filled with unforgettable performances and timeless stories. Known for being highly selective about his roles, Redford's filmography is remarkably consistent, with only a few missteps like Havana, which to be fair isn't a complete failure. Most of his movies have stood the test of time. In the coming weeks, you'll likely see a resurgence of interest in his famous collaborations with Paul Newman, such as Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting. Fans will also revisit classics, like All the President's Men, The Natural, The Way We Were, Out of Africa, though personally I'm not the biggest fan, but that score is undeniably iconic, The Horse Whisperer, Indecent Proposal, and many others. But here's where it gets controversial, and this is the part most people miss. There's a treasure trove of lesser-known Redford films that deserve just as much attention. At JoBlo, we like to take a different approach. For years, I've run a column called The Best Movie You Never Saw, which highlights underrated films that often fly under the radar. When Gene Hackman passed, I shared some hidden gems from his career, and now I want to do the same for Robert Redford by spotlighting some of his most overlooked performances. The Hot Rock. One of the most underrated films in Redford's career is The Hot Rock, a clever crime caper penned by William Goldman, who also wrote some of Redford's biggest hits like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Sting, and The Great Waldo Pepper. Adapted from Donald Westlake's novel, this movie features Redford as John Dortmunder, a thief who repeatedly fails to steal the same precious gem. He teams up with George Segal, playing his brother-in-law and partner in crime, and the film also boasts a memorable performance by Zero Mostel. Outside of Legal Eagles, this is probably the closest Redford ever came to doing a straight-up comedy. Unfortunately, The Hot Rock is surprisingly hard to find nowadays, though it occasionally appears on the Criterion Channel. Jeremiah Johnson, directed by Sidney Pollack. Jeremiah Johnson is a Western that's gained a new kind of fame thanks to a popular GIF, but the film itself is a deeply moving and stark portrayal of frontier life. Redford plays a bearded mountain man, a role that's quite different from his usual suave persona. The story follows Jeremiah as he trespasses on sacred Native American land, which leads to a deadly conflict with the Crow tribe. Despite their efforts to kill him, Jeremiah survives, and the film explores his complex relationship with the daughter of a Crow leader. The movie balances intense action with a poignant romance, and Redford brings a gentle vulnerability to the character that actors like Steve McQueen or Clint Eastwood might not have captured. 3 Days of the Condor. Redford wasn't typically known for action roles, but he made a notable exception with 3 Days of the Condor, a tense, paranoid thriller set in the post-Watergate era. He plays a CIA analyst who uncovers a vast conspiracy and suddenly finds himself targeted by his own agency. While the premise might seem familiar today, it was groundbreaking when the film was released. Sidney Pollack's direction delivers several gripping suspense sequences, and interestingly, Redford's later casting in Captain America: The Winter Soldier was a direct nod to this film's espionage vibe. Brubaker, for those who appreciate grittier dramas, Brubaker is a standout. Redford stars as a determined prison warden who goes undercover as an inmate to expose corruption within the penal system. Based on a true story, the film's first act is particularly compelling as the audience remains unaware that the new prisoner is actually the warden. Brubaker pairs well with another prison drama Redford made years later, The Last Castle, offering a fascinating look at justice and reform behind bars. Spy Game. While I was tempted to include Sneakers, which is already a cult classic, I want to highlight Tony Scott's Spy Game. This sleek techno-thriller pairs Redford with Brad Pitt, whom Redford helped bring to prominence in A River Runs Through It. The film's fast-paced editing and Scott's dynamic directing style make it stand out in Redford's filmography. It's a stylish, intense ride that showcases a different side of Redford's acting range. And there you have it, some of the best Robert Redford movies you might have missed. If you're hungry for even more hidden gems, don't overlook All Is Lost, The Old Man and the Gun, The Electric Horseman, and The Candidate. So what's your favorite Robert Redford film? Do you agree with these picks, or do you think some other movies deserve the spotlight? Let's get the conversation going in the comments below.